What you see on the shows, $1 Million Listing, Buying Beverly Hills, all of that, you're only seeing 1%. I was in survival mode my whole life, really.
What's it like working in that type of environment, and what have you learned? I'm about to find out.
Yeah, you're about to find out. You have to fall in love with rejection. That's a problem.
Yeah.
And you need to sit down. And majority of people are so scared. The ones like you and I that have a great heart, that are making changes in the world, are the ones that need to absolutely speak up.
If you were to jump in a time machine with me and go back to your 18-year-old, 17-year-old self,
Oof.
and you only have 20 seconds, 30 seconds to talk to yourself, what would you say?
It's been quite the journey. God just had his hand on me. Thank you for having me.
So I want to start off by, this is a question that I really haven't gotten a chance to ask you.
Oh.
And it's like, did you imagine or envision like 10 to 15 years ago that you would be in the situation that you're in right now? Or was it truly far-fetched for you?
I never imagined for my life to turn out the way that it has. I mean, it's been quite the journey.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't even imagine what my life would look like a year in advance. Like I was in survival mode my whole life, really. And then of course, my story being a single mom, and it got, it magnified. And so I was lost for a very, very long time. And I was just trying to figure it out. And then God just had his hand on me.
Yeah.
And I just,
Yeah. So right now, guys, just, you work in a very high pressure environment,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of elite people, a lot of people who have been in the business world for a long time. It's a very competitive industry already.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And sometimes I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, on top of that, you are filming, you guys are doing the show. And so they're in and out all the time. And, especially for like extremely compassionate people, or people who are very driven, also tend to be a little emotional. Like it just kind of comes with the package.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you manage that? And I don't mean that you're the only one dealing with this stress.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody does in their own ways in their own lives. But what's it like working in that type of environment, and what have you learned about yourself during that process?
Oh my gosh. What I've learned through the process is I need help, and I've received help. And now I'm able to do so much more with my team.
Cool.
I have my assistant. I have someone that runs my social media. I have someone that creates content for me. I got a whole team to be able to handle different parts so that I could just focus on the things like, with my real estate, the negotiation side, the contracts, things like that. Eventually, I'll definitely have someone to be able to do more of the paperwork and the contracts.
So that's like the workload.
Yeah.
That helps a lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as like being in a high stress scenario or environment almost all the time.
I'm used to it.
Do you just...
I'm used to it. I've always been high stress, high anxiety.
Yeah, she's like, I was born that way.
I literally was born that way. I do work best under pressure. I really do. If it's kind of like a high for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense, but I also take lots of rest and take lots of breaks. I think a lot of people that wear a lot of hats, they're just go, 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 go. Self-care is so important. I do have, I take Sundays completely off. I know with real estate, it's very unpredictable, and it could just, someone out of the blue, all of a sudden they have to see a house like an hour ago. And so you definitely have to work with that. But again, I have my assistant that is licensed. So if anything, depending on the relationship, I'll just have her do it, whatever. But keeping those boundaries and keeping that schedule for yourself and having that self-care is incredibly important. Otherwise, I don't know how I would be able to do everything.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know. This works for me. I have to take it one day at a time. I can't think about what I have to do next Monday. I can't think about next month. I can't even think of what I'm doing tomorrow. Someone asked me, what are you doing tomorrow? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just trying to get through today. Okay. Let me just get through today.
This is what I mean. It's like the real shit that comes out.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't want to think about it.
Because people think that oh my gosh, I'm not that great of a planner. I can never be that structured. I'm like, guys, she lives in many people doing like organized chaos.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's good. Organized
Yeah,
chaos.
it's like
Yeah.
organized chaos. I kind of know what's going on. I
Yeah.
know how to act like I know what's going on.
Yeah.
But in the back of my mind, I'm like, what the fuck is happening next? Right? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on? Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, I love your like transparency on that. But
Yeah.
you know, another thing is like, and I want to get into some really, really deep stuff here in a minute that I know you articulate really well, and I've seen the impact on others. Like I've shared some of your stuff online, and then some of my friends or even people that I would have never imagined were like, "Oh my God, like I can totally relate to that." Things that I can't articulate well, even as a man. You know, in certain scenarios, you can only do so much as a man. You need a lot of women to be like in your support structure, too. And in a professional environment, you know, like the one that you guys are in, it's so common to get your buttons pushed all the time. You know, and it gets into competitiveness. It also can be, and I'm not just talking about in the real estate scene. You know, I'm also in the corporate world, and I've seen a lot of people who've become great friends now not speak anymore because of something that happened in business. And I'm kind of gotten to this point where I noticed, I think it was actually watching one of your guys' season 3 things. I noticed that that's happened with you and others, you know, in the firm a few times. But I noticed something unique that in all these scenarios, some of them silly, some of them fun, some of them serious, you were the first person to come back and say, let's talk. Let's get past this. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And without naming any names, I noticed that like 2 or 3 times. And it was like big blow up.
Yeah.
And then like almost, you know, within a day or two afterwards, you're like, okay, listen, what's really going on?
Yeah.
Like, how do we squash this?
Yeah.
You know, and I see a lot of great friendships, particularly in the business world, get ruined. Some of them for years because of one event. And I'm like, do you really want to throw away like all your history together over a couple of mistakes because nobody can step up and say, I'm wrong or I'm sorry?
Yeah.
You know, so what's it like being in an environment where you have a lot of people who aren't willing to do that, and you are one of the only ones willing to do that? Now, I'm not talking about anybody else saying they're not doing it.
Right.
But what's it like coming from that standpoint of view and then not receiving it in return sometimes?
There's definitely things I would have done a little bit differently if you're referring to those moments in the show. But I would say the number one most important thing truly is communication, especially when it's actual friends, and just communicating with them sooner the better. And I know it gets tough when it's you mix the personal with the business together. It does get tough.
Much tougher.
It does. However, you already know what you signed up for when you decided to get involved the personal with the business. Now, prior to obviously with the show, we're pushed to be together in real life. I wouldn't have naturally been so close. I wouldn't be having these beach days with them. Like I go to work, I focus, I do my thing. If we have a relationship, great. Every now and then we'll hang out. But the amount of times that they put us together is not something I would do organically in real life. They do it because it's the show. Yeah.
Scenarios that are.
It can. It definitely can. I feel like certain friends should be in different categories. Some you can totally open up to and tell them about your personal stuff and all the things that you're going through. But there's some of those friends that you shouldn't tell them about your problems and your issues. You got to be really, really careful. And it's just really up to you to have that discernment, to have that correct judgment on who's who and what category they go in. Doesn't mean you don't love them, but you can love them from afar.
Yeah.
And some of the people on the show, I love them from afar. I'm not going to tell them the things that I'm going through. I'm really not.
Picturing my head like, I love you from over there.
From over there. You're not going to know what I'm going, like anything about my family, my personal life, nothing.
Yeah.
And if you ask me, I'll be like, yeah, I got a few things going on.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's some of those friends that you don't want to tell what your next step is. You have to protect yourself more than anything, and not to get biblical, but it is in the Bible. You do have to protect your heart first and foremost. And it's protecting you. It's not having a wall up. Those are two different things. But just having communication and then having those boundaries. If they ever do cross certain boundaries, whatever that is for you, you have to communicate about what it is they did wrong. Hey, I trusted you. How come you mentioned that to that person? Things like that. So you always want to start that communication immediately.
Yeah.
But personal and business mixed together is tough. It's hard.
Yeah.
But sometimes we can't avoid it. I can't choose my coworkers. But you can choose how you behave, how you act, what you say around them, and things like that. And then that also includes the other coworkers or whoever that is close to them. So I'm cool with some of them, but I know that some of them that I'm cool with is super close with like specific ones that I do not mess with.
Right.
So it's just knowing and
It's kind of like Game
understanding.
of Thrones people, you know what I'm saying?
But that's not just like it's
This is real life.
this is real life.
Like,
Yeah.
it's okay to make these adjustments.
Yeah.
And to posture yourself this way.
But it's not just workspace. It's also like family members. Like same
Maybe
rules
even more
go.
so.
Yeah, same
Maybe
rules
even more
go.
so.
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys who's guilty of like wanting to be loved by everybody. And I go obnoxiously like energetic about people because I enjoy that. And it's gotten me into a lot of trouble too.
I see.
But you sharing that kind of makes me think, okay, you don't have to be an established professional of like 10 to 15 years to be experiencing this stuff. You also don't have to be in your 20s, 30s, or 40s. You might be 15 years old listening to this and realizing that you've got to just be mindful of like the friends that you're keeping around. You don't need to cancel people out. But what Kayla's saying is basically like manage your relationships on a need-be basis on what your trust level is with that person. And I don't know if you'd agree with this, but I feel like you should be respectful to everybody.
Yes.
But trust is earned.
Exactly.
Along the way, which contradicts how I was raised.
Yeah, it's not given, it's earned. Yeah. But just like you said, you respect everyone 100%. You don't treat people like they're guilty before proven innocent either. But you do have those boundaries and you protect you and your own.
Yeah. So talking about time and being younger, you've done a really good job lately. Like one of the reasons I was excited to invite you on, some of the others, is not necessarily because of where our careers are right now. It's because, and I mentioned this to some of the other guests that we had here earlier today, and I was like, it's because there's so much information out there. I believe it's much easier for young professionals, young adults in general, to be misled than it ever was before. Like exponentially more misled. Information, music, politics, technology, you just all over the place.
Yeah.
And so I want you to kind of like share whatever you've already been sharing or you're comfortable with about how the Kayla Cardona that everybody sees now, champagne parties and showing houses, you know what I mean? And bougie and I know the bubbly side of you has always been there. But maybe take us back in time a little bit, let's just say like young adulthood, on what it took, particularly as not just a single mother, but an individual who was very much isolated to be like, it's you, it's just you, make it happen.
So your question is, what's the difference between the two different?
Yeah, like how does the Kayla from 15 years ago relate and differ, or what did that young woman do that allowed her to arrive here right now?
What did I do? I just knew, again, I was in survival mode, and I just knew I didn't have a choice. I had to keep going. I had to figure it out. And it was a lot of hurt and pain I had to go through. It was a lot of self-healing, personal development. I mean, therapy, everything. I had to figure out who I was. I mean, was pregnant at 17, I had him at 18 in a shelter, and I was alone. I was abandoned. I had abandonment issues. And so you can only imagine that little teen mom and all the mental illnesses she had to go through and overcome on her own. There is no other power than coming out of dark places alone. There is nothing like it.
Yeah.
So I had to get through all of that and just figure out, I'm telling you, the way that my life has turned, it's now I know this because before I was a believer. I mean, before I was not a believer. Now I am. But it has been God this whole time. He's been kind of guiding me a little bit because I went from literally being a full-time barber and bartender to getting my real estate license. Like, how random is that? I just did it for fun with a girlfriend. And when I got my license, I was like, okay, hold on. I'm going to take this as a sign because I'm terrible at taking tests. That alone, I took as a sign. I was like, wait, I should probably do something with this. Number one. Number two, I just remember standing behind that chair for 8 hours straight with my hands hurting, my feet hurting, being on my feet all day, thinking, this can't be it. This cannot be it. And here's the thing. I've always known that there was something different about me. I just didn't know what it was. I didn't know my mission. I didn't know my purpose.
How do you know to recognize that? I've heard people say that before, and it's like, how do you know that what you're feeling is real?
What you're feeling is real.
Like you said, I've always known there's something special or talented or driven about me.
Usually it
How does
comes.
somebody recognize that? Because people are being super like, don't think that way right now.
I think a lot of people, based on my experiences and the people that have felt the same way that I felt, like being the black sheep of the family, being the one where everyone in the family wanted you to be a certain someone or be in certain careers, and you're like, gosh, that's just not for me. I can't. I'm sorry to disappoint everybody, but you just always felt like you couldn't listen to what everyone else was telling you, and you didn't know why. Usually it's the one that rebels. Usually it's the ones that are just like kind of a lone wolf. Those are the ones that are like, wait, there's something different about me. Some of them will never figure it out, unfortunately, sadly, because they're like, why am I so different? And they go down a dark path.
Right.
But a lot of them
feeling can make you feel abandoned.
Yes.
Lonely.
Yes.
Betrayed or doubted.
Yeah. But there's two different choices.
Right.
You can either choose like, okay, there's something wrong with me and stay in that dark mindset, or you can think, you know what, there's actually something special about me. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm going to choose to believe that it's something amazing and great, and I'm going to choose this path.
Right.
So it's when you just feel like you don't fit in. Those are the ones.
If you could try to isolate, when you're having those moments where you just feel like, can something please go my way for once? And you still got to go to sleep and wake up and take care of, your son or family or whatever the case may be out there. What's going through someone's head when you literally feel like nothing in life, at least right now, is going your way? What did you notice prior to your success now kept you going along the way?
I don't know how I did it on my own. And the reason why I mention that is because now I understand the importance of surrendering to God. If you feel like you have to control everything, that's why everything is not going your way.
Got it.
Because we can't control everything. We have to have faith that God is going to guide us in the right direction. We do. And sorry, I'm getting very like,
okay.
I'm not sorry. My point,
sorry.
But this is my truth. And if people, this is coming from a person that had to control everything because that was a survival tactic. It was a trauma response because I grew up in a very chaotic, unpredictable, painful, hurtful household where nothing was consistent. Nothing was consistent. I mean, my parents, I love them now. We have a very close relationship, but just being pregnant at 17 and them kicking me out, like that is just, it was a toxic environment. I didn't know anything else. And so I felt like I had to control everything. And there's so much power in just literally letting go and just be like, okay, you got this because I can't do this anymore.
100%.
And I went from New Age to Christianity. For those that don't understand, New Age is you believe in yourself. I actually noticed, not to put you on the spot, but I noticed that book on your table, The Greatest Secret. That's New Age. So I believe that I had the power to create my reality. And that is believing that you are some sort of God.
Yeah.
And so I believed that for many years.
That's where it goes too far.
Well, no, but that's the truth, because you manifest everything. You again create your own reality. And if everything goes great, yes, I did it.
Right.
But when everything goes south,
you're blaming yourself.
You're blaming yourself. You know how much pressure that is?
Yeah.
It's too much. So I relieved that when I became a believer, and I was like, oh my gosh, it all makes sense.
Right.
I've been trying to do everything myself. So
it's such an interesting balance, because it's like God gave us our conscious to make decisions, right? It's to think, it's to discern, and so forth. And so I love studying different things so that I am aware. I am thinking for myself.
Yeah.
But I feel like, that for me doesn't cross the line into an I am a God or I am part of God, right? The universe or whatever. I understand that because, not to get into details, but much like you, sometimes, and for those of you who, if you happen to be going through something right now, obviously it's probably temporary. But what I gather from Kayla is like, you kind of just keep going.
Yeah.
Kind of just wake up and just go.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
Don't stop. You can't stop. Even when you're going through the hardest moments in your life, there's a reason why. Why would you, I don't remember who said it, but he said, if you're going through hell, why would you stop? Why would you stop in hell?
Oh, yeah.
You got to keep going.
Keep going through.
And as long as you're progressing, and I think a lot of people are just scared of, many things, but the majority is fear of rejection and fear of failure. Those are the two really biggest things that majority of us go through, meaning people that are entrepreneurs, want to be entrepreneurs, business owners, like, you know what I mean? Because if you think about it, the population, no one really does the 9-to-5 thing anymore. Let's be real. Like everyone's figuring out, wait a minute.
Like, what?
Yeah. And
we still need it. There's a lot of that out there.
Oh, 100%. And they want that, which is okay. That's the life that they choose.
Right.
But that's what's really holding people back is that fear. And the thing is the fear is a lie. That's the thing. And I know this coming from experience because all I did was live in fear my entire life. So once I was able to, I'm not perfect because I'm human. That's what happens.
When it slips in, how do you manage it?
Just remind yourself who you are.
Okay.
I'm more powerful than fear, and it's a lie. And then sometimes I do go back and I think, okay, look at all that I've done already. Look how much I've done. I got this. This is nothing.
I made it this far. Like, there must be something worth.
Also, having community. Community is huge. Having that family member or friend that truly, genuinely believes in you.
Right.
Calling them up, hey, give me this pep talk because I need it right now. If that's incredibly important.
You ever find yourself in a situation where you don't have that card?
For most of my life, I didn't have that.
Yeah.
It wasn't really until recently.
See, that's what I'm getting at, because there's something that's difficult to explain about what needs to happen. Like, how do we simplify the idea that your life is going to have sometimes tremendous challenges? It's going to have possibly tremendous heartbreak, frustration, disappointment, and often very much so in yourself because of the comparison thing, right? But what I like to do is try to figure out, like, how do you communicate with yourself through that? Because this is also the same trigger that gets people to start thinking, oh, I need medical supplementation. I need a drug for this. I need a depression drug. Or I'm not against those things. But I feel like that boldness that you're mentioning, of like, you kind of just keep going.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you, your life. You shouldn't feel guilty.
Yeah.
You ever had the feeling of guilt?
Oh, all the time.
Sometimes, like, I should have done better. I should have been here by now. I should have done this differently. That's a big one for people. It was a big one and still is for me to manage. But is it truly the keep going piece? Is that the idea of it?
All those things that you just mentioned, people need to remember those are just Band-Aids. they're not going to help anything.
Mm.
If anything, it's actually going to make it worse. All the medications,
Right.
all the things that people look for supplements to cover it up, whatever it is that they're going through.
Mhm.
They have to get into the root of what is wrong. How do you do that? If you don't have people around you, or if you don't have the church and a strong enough relationship with God, or even believe in God,
Mhm.
I would really recommend to go to therapy.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people like me had, my ego was too big because I thought therapy and all of that was for crazy people and for people that people don't want to do that because they're in denial that there's a much deeper problem. They rather just fix something super easy, put a Band-Aid over it,
Right.
drink every night, do drugs,
Right.
medication, whatever. And even, sleeping with people and all that stuff, that's a cover up of whatever it is that you're trying to avoid.
That's actually one of the topics that I wanted to highlight on these shows.
Oh.
Because I've been through that back and forth, back and
Mm.
forth. And I noticed that things that I used to do just occasionally for fun now ended up becoming a vice or an escape.
Mm.
And it was difficult to make that connection.
Yeah.
That it's no longer just a couple of hours or something with friends for fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's starting to become something that there's a little bit of a dependency on.
Yeah.
That's kind of like that danger zone where you're like, okay, look, you're not crazy.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
If you have a faith or if you believe in God, you need to get back to that.
Mm-hmm.
I often talk about how with my friends, I think with you maybe one time as well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I like, you can call yourself whatever you want to call yourself, Christian, Catholic, Muslim, whatever you want to call yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that you're having frequent conversations in relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that was the missing component as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I felt like, oh, I've got so much going on that he's so far from me now.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's going to take a lot of work for me to rekindle that relationship.
So overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I understand that. Yeah.
I want to ask you, going back in time once again, if you were to jump into the real estate industry at a younger age, there seems to be like a trend right now where people think real estate is like this glamorous, fun, open houses, cheese boards,
caviar, champagne, yachts.
Well, maybe not everywhere. Like I'm from the Midwest.
Oh.
We ain't got no caviar.
I know, see.
We might have some, I don't know, some Ritz crackers or something. Sam's Club cheese or something. But I think there's this misconception because, I do a lot of work in the mortgage business.
Mm-hmm.
And even during the boom, there was like 340,000 licensed loan officers in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And there was 1.2 million real estate agents.
Mm.
Okay. Now, in order, most of the time,
is this in California?
This is nationwide.
Nationwide, okay.
Nationwide kind of feels like it.
It feels like it's in California. Half of that's in OC.
Well, there's a lot of expensive homes.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Naturally. Okay. So somebody's just getting into the industry. And here's my favorite line. I just got my real estate license.
I get that every day.
And I'm thinking like, oh, hell. You're about to find out. Bro.
Yeah, you're about to find out.
So, but knowing that, it is tough. And if somebody's sincere about it, like, what's the best way to get into it? Like, what worked for you early on?
Man, you guys, it is so oversaturated. And let me tell you something. What you see on the shows, $1 Million Listing, buying Beverly Hills, all of that, you're only seeing 1%. It is only 1%, you guys. It is messy. I don't look like this all the time, okay? I look like this maybe 5% of the time, okay? And because I have another event I'm going to today. I look like a disaster when I work when I'm not showing homes. It's tough. It is really hard. And you have to be okay with not making money in the first 2 to 3 years. What else you got going on?
So that's a big one.
Oh, yeah.
And so because people are like, they're like almost like going broke.
Yeah. No, I know.
Go hardcore because there's another school to it, which is like, it's all or nothing. Like it's not.
That's true.
Part-time.
Nope, you can't do it part-time.
Part-time failure, full-time success. And so like, let's say you're in that situation And I know that you seem to do a really good job of like transitioning, over to it and doing it in a pretty quick time frame. And so I do know a lot of people in our audience, they look at real estate and finance and stuff like that as a potential career, but they're not sure if they should get into it.
Yeah.
So is that something that they should just know? Like, look, you ain't going to be making money for a while.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you're thinking of getting your license or you just got your license, I would say go shadow a top producer and go follow them everywhere, be their assistant, whatever it is you have to do to be around them daily for, I don't know, 3 to 6 months, whatever.
Yeah.
Really see the type of life that they live. The best, biggest real estate agents, gurus, legends that I know in my areas do not have a life. They are obsessed with the industry. And unfortunately, their wives and children are neglected. Like,
but you're talking about like the top 1%.
The top 1%. So you not only have to go and shadow top producers to figure out, is this really what you want? You got to figure out if you want it. Then you have to figure out what type of level you want to be on. Right. So yeah, that is the 1%, but those are the ones that are making the best type of money.
We're speaking to the people who are not like, oh, I'm going to do it on the side. While
you can't do it on the side. You can't do it on the side. I'm going to tell you guys, you can't do it on the side. You cannot do it part-time. If you want to actually make money, you can't do that. It doesn't work. It will not work unless you literally have family members and friends knocking on your door saying, please sell my house. I'm looking to buy, which does not happen. Because people think they're going in saying, oh, I know so many family and friends,
Right. It's so funny.
They're not going to go with you because they don't trust you.
Yeah,
you don't have experience.
Right.
So what makes you
it's
think?
So funny how I'm sure there's several exceptions, but it's so funny how once you get into business for something, a lot of the people who are the closest to you are not the first to compliment you.
No.
They're not the first to support you. They're not even the first to start commenting on your stuff.
They'll say, oh my gosh, great job. I'm so happy for you.
Right.
But they're not going to ask you to sell their house. They don't trust you.
Why do you think that is?
Because you don't know anything yet. You're not experienced.
Yeah,
you're handling the most important transaction in most of their lives.
Right.
If you're dealing with the multi-million-dollar homes, then you're dealing now with second, third homes with a bunch of money. They're either investing it or whatever. But the majority of the population, you're dealing with their biggest transaction in their life. As much as they love you, they're not gonna trust you because it's their money. Now you're getting personal because now you're learning how much money they really get. And there's a lot of people,
that's true.
You're going to see all their personal stuff and you're going to see all their bad sides. So now you're dealing with emotion and you're dealing with a lot of pressure because it's very stressful. I mean, the top 3 most stressful things people go through is marriage, finances, and buying a home or selling a home. It's up there.
Yeah.
And so they don't want to show that bad side to them. So I've had so many friends that didn't end up using me as a real estate agent because they didn't trust me.
And so this actually reminds me of a time. I think I called you or something. There was some event going on, and I was like, "Are you going to this event?" And I'm like, "What are you doing?" And you're like, "I'm at the office, bro, making cold calls right now." Like, what are you talking about?
I'm still door knocking.
Saturday afternoon. You and a couple of your team members. This is at the company that you were at previously.
Oh, at Remax.
At Remax, yeah. And I called you, and you're like, "We're literally here in the office, just making calls."
Yeah, we would drink and pop a beer.
Hours and hours.
Up until it was dark. Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, because I've been in sales coaching for a while. I'm like, that's badass.
Yeah.
like who does that?
Yeah.
People are just hoping that individuals show up at their open house or about flyers or put it on their Instagram, and all these people are going to come through.
Yeah. You have to fall in love with rejection. That's the crazy part. And majority of people are so scared of rejection.
Jeez.
You have to love it. You have to be a little sick in the head.
Yeah. You got to be a little sick. My mom says, literally in her tonality, the crazy ones are the best ones. That's what she says. Crazy ones are the best ones.
I don't think she's wrong.
She's probably not wrong. She's probably not. And now that I observe, people in my family or even just close friends as they're older, I start to notice that a lot of their, especially people that like I grew up around, I start to notice that a lot of their mannerisms or their, how should I say, their craziness, let's call it their craziness. I see it in me sometimes. I see it in people like you. Yeah, and there's like this common denominator of like people who just kind of have almost like an uncomfortable edge that other people.
Do I have an uncomfortable edge?
No, you don't walk around with it, but you can whip it out sometimes, like out of nowhere, like bam, here you go.
I encourage you to get to know me now.
Yeah. Which is good. And what I'm saying is that
so.
I noticed that, like I fly off the handle sometimes. My members of my family have been like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's okay. Like, what's the opposite of that? Being passive and just blending in with everybody else and not, like you said, listening to like what your mind is trying to tell you to do and not to do.
Those are the 9-to-5ers. I'm just kidding.
There's some crazy people.
But there's a little bit of crazy in everybody. I think it's just a choice, a decision whether you want to utilize that.
I think the world is suppressing two things very well. They're making, I feel like people feel somewhat guilty if they don't voice their opinion. And the ones that are voicing their opinion, usually, not always, and I'm not talking about like the top 2%ers of like some of the people that we follow or we admire for their point of view, their belief systems, their let's just call it the politics of things, right? But I feel like the loudest ones are the corrupt ones. And so, like, do you feel like if you got a good heart, like if I don't say it, nobody's going to say it?
Yeah.
Type of a thing.
Yeah.
In different areas.
I understand what you're saying. Absolutely. I'm curious as to why people are feeling muted to speak up. I think a lot of it has to do with everyone being so offended by everything and the fear of really, I guess, hurting someone's feelings.
Or being judged for it.
But in my opinion, I think it's a good balance of both. I think speaking up is incredibly important. In fact, I have more respect for people that do speak up. When you say the loudest ones, I think you're speaking about the ones that are extremely ignorant and arrogant and have an ego where they don't care about hurting people,
right?
Because they're coming from a hurt place. But that's probably a whole different topic.
By the way, it's even people who like believe in what we believe in and their tonality. Let me see.
I think it's okay to speak up, but there's a certain way you can say your message and it landing properly.
Right.
When you feel like you have to tear people down or make other people feel less than, that's a problem. And you need to sit down. I think the ones like you and I that have a great heart, that are making changes in the world, are the ones that need to absolutely speak up more. You have your podcast you're bringing back. I have mine. And that's another reason why I brought back my podcast as well, because I knew I have so much value and so much to say. And I'm coming from a pure, genuine heart. And there's not that many out there because there's so many people with big platforms that have shitty hearts. And they are just taking over with their egos, and they're taking advantage of people, and they're taking their money, and they're leading them astray in the wrong direction. And then they look at their bank account, they're like, where did all my money go? Because you're invested in all these people that are scamming you. So we need more people like you and I to step up, step out, and step in.
Yeah, 100%. So much to talk about, it's like there's some really good people here locally, so hopefully it'll be a recurring thing, or maybe I'm sure you guys do it too.
I'm 15 minutes away.
A panel of people, like 3 or 4 people all rapping at the same time, going back and forth. That's a really healthy discussion for, what we're doing.
Well.
So hopefully we'll do some of that. I want to talk about the fun side of the business life. Particularly, it doesn't have to be, obviously you're going to model this out in real estate, right? But the fun side of that, what do you love about it? What do you enjoy about what you're doing right now? Other than all the pressure and all the drama
What part?
The TV stuff.
Oh, the TV stuff. What do I love about it? It's opened a lot of doors for me. It's allowed me to connect with more people. I'm talking about people from all over the world because we're in 192 countries and over 200 languages. So it's allowed me to connect with people in Brazil and India and Africa, like just all over the world. And it's just like, oh, love from Portugal. I'm like, cool. I love you. Yeah. Like it's being able to have that platform, and just what I'm doing now is utilizing that platform by, of course, helping as many people as I can.
Right.
And, I'm going to a lot more events and, supporting local businesses all around Orange County. I love doing that. Me, I'm a foodie. So I love to go to all these different events. So it's just like, for me, what's the most fun is connecting with people. That's just has been the greatest thing for me.
Yeah, I think we see that in you too.
Yeah.
All over the place. If you were to jump in a time machine with me and go back to your 18-year-old, 17-year-old self, and you only have 20 seconds, 30 seconds to talk to yourself, what would you say?
Everything is going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. Just keep going.
Got it.
I would not say anything to her that would alter her decisions because where she got to where she's at today is exactly where she needs to be.
That's powerful. You would not alter any of her decisions.
Nope. Nothing, not one.
Everything's going to be okay.
Everything's going to be okay.
That's powerful. You probably have to have that conversation with yourselves many times in life.
Yeah.
Probably thousands of times in life. Also, guys, by the way, your show is called Pain to Power.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yep.
And you wrap that up really quick.
Yeah.
Some great conversations. I'm usually the guy that's like, I'm not watching no woman show. Right? I don't need another, what's that one on TV with all the shady woman on it?
The shady woman? Which one? What's he talking about?
With The View. Yeah. I mean, it can be fun, right? It can be fun.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, you don't.
It's okay.
You don't need to stick to Pain to Power.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, you know what? Let me tune in because I know like you got a lot on your mind, a lot on your heart. And I was listening, and it got to the point, guys. We're listening. You'll enjoy this. Spend a few hours, invest a few hours this month listening to Pain to Power as well. And it got to the point where it was like, okay, just 2 more minutes. Okay, just 3 more minutes. Just 5 more minutes. Then I'm like, I really gotta go. Oh, wait a minute. Right. And I was like, shit, I've been watching this now for 40 minutes. You know what I mean? So that's a good sign.
Thank you.
That's a really good sign.
Thank you.
And I'm one of my faults is I'm a little too over judgmental and finicky about other people sharing their fluffy stories. You're trying to motivate everyone. I think you've done a great job, and some of you out there too probably should start exercising this. It's kind of like a relief off your shoulders, and make sure you're doing it in the right environments, but not looking so perfect all the time and so well managed, and sharing some of your mistakes. It's always easier to share mistakes after they've passed or after they're done and you moved on from them. But I noticed even the other day, like you were sharing some things that you were experiencing that week, or just like the week before. And those are the things that kept my attention along the way. It's like we need to stop highlighting each other so much. A little bit is good, like a lot of us deserve it. But we also need to like make sure we're keeping the real conversations going. Like what's really happening on a week-to-week basis. There's not a lot of that. And everybody says that like I'm saying it right now.
Yeah.
And then they still don't really follow through on it. I'm guilty of that as well. Okay. There might be times where we're doing a morning video or at a company coaching, and I'll give you the question and let you answer it. And somebody asked me, and I'm going to ask it to you, how do you stay so motivated and so high energy and so positive every day?
You're asking me.
I'm going to ask you that.
Okay.
Question. It was asked to me. I'm going to ask you to it. I love your perspective.
I don't.
There you go.
I'm not motivated every day. I am not. Just last week, I was in bed for 2 days.
Okay.
Because I was going through something harsh.
Got it.
Very harsh.
Got it.
Usually, sometimes I'll give myself a day but this one was pretty bad.
2 days is big then.
2 days is really big.
Okay.
And it was tough. But once I got out of it, I was like, all right, let's roll. And when I went all in, but I needed that.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just my body shutting down. It was also because I needed that rest and I needed that time alone.
Yeah.
And just shut everything off and just rest my mind, my body, my soul, did a lot of self-care. I still moved my body. I'm not saying I stayed in bed all day. It was like, close the curtains and it was pitch black. Like I wasn't depressed, but I still moved my body, but I don't stay motivated every day.
Yeah.
But it really, here's the thing. What are your priorities? How bad do you want it? What is it that you're doing? Are you living your purpose? Are you living your mission? Because if you are, that's your motivation.
Right.
And you hear this all the time. What's your why?
And
it makes me want to throw up because everybody says that
every day. Some days I feel like it's like 5%.
100%. Well, yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's because you're human and you go through stuff and that's okay. Feeling guilty makes it worse. I think just having grace and just space and permission to be like, you know what? I'm not doing anything today.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Because once you make that decision, don't feel bad the next day or don't feel bad the night of and you just, you made that decision. So why would you punish yourself for making that decision? So if you make that decision to rest, don't feel bad about it afterwards. Right. It's like eating that cookie.
I remember I got up this one dude who's really, really like inspiring kid. I say kid, he's like 23, 24 years old.
That's a kid.
And he's like, dude, he's like, don't you ever get like upset? Like, aren't you ever like angry? Like, how are you motivated? You walk out and I'm like, nah, bro. Like, I'm literally like sometimes in your elevator going like, man, I really do not want to do this right now. I'm tired of, pumping these people up every day and training above. And then when the elevator door opens, it's like, nah, I'm here. Yeah. It's like, I have a responsibility now.
Yeah.
Like nobody wants Kayla to show up as not the Kayla that everybody's expecting. So I feel like, for those of you listening, it's kind of like, even when it appears that you're super pumped, super jacked, and like on top of your game, that doesn't mean that there isn't something that's very dramatic or very difficult to handle happening that day.
Yeah.
It's almost like this balancing act that you carry. And again, it stems into that same area of like people feeling like it's not okay for me to not be motivated or positive all the time. Yeah. I've seen you manage that quite a bit too.
I mean, the hardest thing I went through was probably like a month ago, because I wear all these hats. I wrote down, I have 7 different types of hats that I wear. And I just thought about for the first time to just shut it all down and just like move to a different country. Like that's how bad.
Wow.
I was like, I just don't want to be Kayla anymore. That's insane. And it didn't last very long, but that's how deep it can go. But then I'm like, no, it's my responsibility. I chose this, and what I'm creating is something. It's a movement. It's beautiful, and I'm helping so many people, and those people are relying on me.
Yeah.
And it's more than myself.
Got it.
The issue is that everyone is making it about themselves. It's not about you. It's about everyone else that you need to serve. And I think once people really understand that, they'll stop looking for like, I gotta be motivated and I gotta be always on. Stop making it about you. It's not about you. It's about who you need to talk to that day. It's who you need to serve that day, who you need to help build that business. It's about others. And people are so, I hate to say it, but it's just, society. When you're building businesses, even relationships, everyone's so selfish. It's a selfish society. And if you just understand that life is not about that, and you remove yourself from the equation completely, I promise you, everything will change. Remind yourself who you got to serve today. If it's one person, if it's a million people, it doesn't matter. Who are you serving today? Remember that. And if people start getting lost or disconnected or feel dark or, again, disconnected from God, go serve somebody sacrificially today, right now. Go. Stop what you're doing and go serve somebody.
Yeah, there's a phrase that I've tried to anchor myself in different things, because what's important is not that you're making mistakes or slipping into the wrong mindset. What's important is that you catch it. You know, so I have this phrase that's faith and forward. Like, just keep your faith strong and just go forward. Probably going to mess things up along the way. Who cares? You're probably going to need to find people that you need to help or that may be able to help you. And that kind of contributes to that like service-based mindset too.
That's good.
Instead of what can I accomplish?
Yeah.
Or how much can I make?
Or see, that's about you. That's about you. Yeah.
It's like about me.
Yeah.
You know, when am I going to be able to afford this house? When am I finally going to be able to travel with my friends? It's kind of like, whoa. Because it's okay to do those things.
Yeah, of course.
It's just when it starts to get, and then you're going to wonder why you feel that way. And it's because your approach is very self-centered. Basically.
I think that's the cause of everyone's depression. Because you're not serving enough people. You're not helping enough people.
That and the lack of progress.
That and the lack of progress.
To work on.
Yeah, you said it earlier about comparison. Comparison is a thief of happiness. It's so true.
Yeah.
Because I think people are so caught up in trying to be perfect and having everything set up first. But God never wanted perfection. He just wants progression.
Right.
That's what's important.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Well said. That is a great and powerful way to wrap this up. Listen, everybody, I highly encourage you to check out what Kayla's been working on. Go listen to some of the shows that she's on and some of the feedback that she gives to people. You basically just got a very small sampling today. So invest some time, you know, with Kayla over time, whether you're 19 years old or you're well into your career and trying to figure out, you know, where to go next. She's not talking about just real estate. She's not talking about just life. It's just a really good ongoing sort of like compounding effect of knowledge and guests and so forth. Obviously, we'll do the same thing here. We'll attach all the information obviously below. She's very easy to find online. It's almost getting to the point where it's kind of hard not to see her. You know, online, like, oh, there's Kayla again. You know what I mean? Like, scroll. Is there anything with Kayla? Right, but super fun person, super bubbly as well. I want to thank you guys all again for your trust and sticking with us. I know the show is very young, but as you can see, even though the show is young, it comes down to the quality of relationships, and that's one of the reasons why we're able to have such amazing people like Kayla with us and several others. So stay tuned. Please share as usual and come back and visit and give us some advice. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear and who you'd like to see by you guys doing this. Obviously, you've heard this before. It helps me to inspire more leaders and more people to come on the show and share a lot more with us. And I'd love to see some hard questions from you guys too. Kayla, thank you for investing time on your Saturday. I know how your schedule can get. God bless you, everything that you're doing, and hopefully we'll have you back to do this again.
Absolutely.
Got it. See you guys.